the Mystic, Alex K. Lee, and this is the official MMA Fighting UFC 250 post-fight show live on the MMA Fighting YouTube channel. You may be hearing this a little bit later, but this is what we're doing right now. But I hope you guys enjoyed a pretty crazy night of fights. There was a lot of naysaying, Alex, and poo-pooing of this card heading in, and we even saw some of that in the minutes leading up to this event tonight. But the only ones that can naysay now, Alex, are the ones that said, you know what? I'm going to skip this one. This is a great card, was it not?
It was a great card. I feel like it might have oddly gotten a bit lumped in with the I Calvillo announcement. I think people saw like the I Calvillo announcement, which is next week. That card's next week, and then they kind of also said, and they kind of added that to like not being super thrilled with the Nunes Spencer fight, and then it just became this whole cluster of like, I guess they kind of grouped these first two June events together, saying like, oh, I'm not excited what the UFC's doing, and they're kind of just throwing cards together. But yeah, anyone who took a real look at this 250 card would tell you, man, top to bottom. Except for the main event, competitive fights on paper and lots of potential for highlight reels finishes, which we definitely got a bunch of those tonight. So, yeah, strong card overall.
Of course, for those who are familiar with what we have done the last few fight cards, we want to hear from you, ladies and gentlemen, who are watching this live with us. So if you got questions, comments, thoughts, matchmaking ideas, etc., leave them in the comments. And Casey, in the truck, we'll put them on the screen. We'll get to as many as we can. But Alex, let's start with the main event of the evening. Amanda Nunes retains her women's featherweight title, dominant performance. She wasn't in any danger at all in this fight against Felicia Spencer. With that, she makes some history. She becomes the first dual champion in the history of the UFC to successfully defend both of her titles while holding both of them. I know that's a lot to sort of unpack and process. Saying it kind of makes me dizzy, but overall, your thoughts on Amanda Nunes' performance tonight, because I thought she looked incredible.
Yeah, all week I've been struggling to sort of what's the most compact way to say that she did the dual champion thing, because people go like, what about Daniel Cormier, what about Henry Cejudo? And again, for just to clarify that one last time, unfortunately neither Cejudo nor Cormier were really given the opportunity to defend both titles while they had them. They won 2 titles and they may have defended one of them, but at some point they were stripped before getting a chance to defend both titles, unfortunately. So yes, Nunes is historically the first fighter to have won 2 titles, hold them both simultaneously, and defend both bantamweight and featherweight belts. So great job for her. I mean, her performance in the main event was amazing. It didn't make for an exciting fight, unfortunately. You know, Spencer, tough as hell. Anyone watching that is going to give her all the credit in the world for hanging in there. But boy, it was one-way traffic. I mean, the definition of one-way traffic for anyone who uses that cliche. But yeah, Nunes looked great. It's unfortunately exactly what people expected, except I think some people were hoping she'd be so dominant that she would get a quick finish, put a real exclamation point on it. But the 25 minutes of dominance, there's no arguing with that. Really, the fight was really one of the only blemishes, you know, if you were looking as far as entertainment value on what was otherwise a great card. I give the whole card an A- overall. It just needed that one great back and forth fight, which it never quite had. There were some good fights, but not a real great like classic fight.
And this is kind of like the old compliment sandwich that you get in the business world, where you say something nice and then you say something not so nice and then you end with something nice. This is we'll talk about the winner, then we'll talk about the loser, and then we'll go back to the winner. So let's talk about Felicia Spencer. She got dominated. No bones about it. But she went the distance. She stayed in there. She made it to the final horn, despite everyone saying that they should stop the fight. Now, one of the concerning things people were talking about heading into this fight, and I talked about this with Jose moments ago and on the preview show, is that people were messaging me on social media saying, why are they putting her in this fight now? This could stunt her growth. Yeah, we get she's the number 1 contender, but let's hold off on Felicia Spencer. Let's let her get a little bit better and then match her up with Nunes, because this fight is probably not going to go well. But after that performance, I still think her stock rose a little bit because of her grit and toughness, even though the fight went the way most expected it to. Where does she go from here after this, besides taking a break?
Look, there is really no featherweight division. So where Spencer goes from here, I mean, look, she's already beaten Megan Anderson, you know, the other kind of name featherweight that most fans are familiar with at this point. So you kind of have to throw her some lesser known people, maybe some of the women from that season of The Ultimate Fighter that were that had featherweight women. The most of them turned out to be bantamweights. Maybe you can convince one of them. Otherwise you have to. Sorry, I had my thing go out there for a second. Otherwise, I think you have to start bringing in people from outside the organization. There's just a lot of again, featherweight is just not one of the deepest divisions. It doesn't matter where you look. It doesn't matter what organization you look at. Even Bellator, they have a division. It's not super deep. So you kind of have to do that for Spencer, which is fine. I think it's cool to find her opponents who are obviously a big step down from some of the best that she's fought at 145, but to kind of showcase her strengths again, build her up again, and who knows in the future what we see for Spencer. But yeah, super tough, just skill wise. Nowhere near as well rounded as Nunes, the champ.
And probably the more interesting question right now coming off that performance is we have Amanda Nunes, who is the greatest women's MMA fighter of all time. She's one of the greatest fighters of all time at this point. And she's in a very interesting position because she has pretty much cleaned out 2 entire divisions. Like there's other names that she hasn't fought yet, but in terms of like the toughest competition she'll probably face up to this point, she's seen them all. She's beat them all. What else can she do? I know she's about to take on a new challenge of parenthood. As a parent myself, that is a challenge in itself. What the hell is left for her to do right now in fighting in either of these divisions? Like, if you had to pick one person to fight her right now, who would you pick?
I'm going to pick the name that Dana White seems resistant to. I don't know why. He's very insistent on not making the Valentina Shevchenko rematch. Look, again, I get it. Yes, Nunes is 2-0 against Shevchenko, so that's fine. That's she's convincingly up in the series. Though there are many who would dispute that Shevchenko may have won their second fight. Our own Jed Meshew will sing that till the cows come home. He's a huge Shevchenko beat Nunes supporter. But I do think that's the most reasonable fight. Shevchenko wants it. I think Nunes would be open to it, and I think there's still a little bit of intrigue there. I will warn people that second Nunes Shevchenko fight, to be with respect to both fighters, that fight sucked. I don't know if you'll remember. It was a terrible fight. So in that sense, if that's the other reason Dana White doesn't want to do it, I actually kind of agree with that. But I mean, as far as name value and how good the fighters are and where they're viewed at their level of esteem, Shevchenko Nunes 3, it's the way to go. There's really just no one else that's ready yet. Though Nunes did say she's planning to take time off, so it could be very different by the time she comes back.
Oh, we lost your audio, Mike.
Yep. Oh, sorry, Mike. We lost your audio.
Oh,
We appeared to lost your audio.
I
You're back.
apologize.
And
What a
you're
rookie
back.
mistake.
All right.
What a rookie mistake.
All right.
You
I
are
muted
back.
myself and I didn't turn myself back on.
All right.
So it seems like
truck is angry.
Aldana. Excuse me.
Oh, hold on.
Aldana.
The truck is upset.
giving
Okay, so just carry on. He's making the carry on motion.
Yes, I wanted to give you guys some time to digest what Alex just said there.
Yeah.
Aldana seems to be the front runner. We got someone saying Valentina won the second fight. There you go. I mean, I'm with you, Alex, because what else is there? Like, I just don't think there's another fight that's interesting. Even Dana White said something that Zhang Weili is closer to getting a fight with Amanda Nunes than Valentina Shevchenko is right now, which, believe me, I would love to see that fight. But I found that comment a little puzzling, considering that Zhang Weili is the strawweight champion right now, and Amanda Nunes is a 45er who cuts a pretty decent amount of weight to get to 35. I just don't know if Zhang Weili can put on that kind of size to make that fight competitive.
Yeah, the other hopes are, Aspen Ladd bounces back from that, setback against Aljamain and emerges as a contender. But she's so young. It's even hard to tell what kind of fighter she is at this point. I'm just looking at some names here. Juliana Pena, great fighter, but I don't know, again, if anyone really would take her as a serious challenge to Nunes. I do like the Aldana possibility, but Ketlin Vieira, unfortunately, she suffered a setback, so she's back in the contender rankings. They're real, and that's the top. Look at the top 10 here. If you want to go lower than that, then we're really reaching for potential opponents. But again, as I said before, who knows how much time Nunes will take off? It could be. She says her child is due in 3 months, but who knows how long she wants to spend focusing on being a mother, It might be a whole year. It could be more than a year, right? There's no guarantees. Financially, she seems to be doing well, so she could be out longer than a year, and that could give time for the bantamweight division and maybe even the featherweight division to spring up some new challengers. But, right now in the immediate future, really no appealing big matchups for Amanda Nunes.
Before we move on to the remainder of the card, I just want to call it to the truck, see if we could pull up a comment that I just read. Someone that, somewhat familiar with. I think her name was Esther Lynn. I just want to read that again. Esther Lynn says, I wonder if they don't want to book Valentina versus Amanda because the previous 2 fights were so close. just almost neutralized each other in a way that was not fun. And I understand that argument.
Accurate.
Alex, the reasoning, I think, is because right now you have Amanda Nunes, who's a dominant champion at 35 and 45, and Valentina Shevchenko at 25 is like the big draw of the division. Like it's different with Valentina because people just like want to see her just crush everybody. Like they're just like, oh, Valentina's got a head kick KO this girl, a head kick KO this girl. So if you match those two up, you're almost taking out like one of the dominant factors. And I know we've seen the fight a couple times. They weren't all that thrilling and exciting, but could that be a part of it, that they just don't want to take that allure of dominance away from either of these women?
I don't think the UFC has ever been worried about ruining anyone's allure or their marketability based on some of the matches that we have seen made. Even today, even something well, I shouldn't say Aljamain Sterling's Corey Sandhagen's a bad example because I think both guys had reached the only point where they had to fight each other. So, but there's definitely been times where the UFC's matched up two people, either on a hot streak or, like you said, with a certain level of fame or success, and it's kind of like, why match them up now? So, for me, I think Shevchenko and Nunes have reached that end point where, again, they really are each other's only option. So I'm definitely in favor of it, and I just say run it back. But again, that's only if Nunes plans to fight anytime soon.
Moving ahead, as if the UFC bantamweight division needed to prove anything at all. I mean, good Lord, did 135 deliver tonight? Even going back to Cody Stamen's win, I know it was at 45, but still, what he did tonight was absolutely incredible and pretty darn inspiring, if you ask me. And then we got to the main card, and we got three big finishes in very big spots from Sean O'Malley, from Aljamain Sterling, and then Cody Garbrandt in the co-main event. This was a banner night for the 135-pound division tonight, Alex.
It's unfortunate that Cejudo is retired because you really could make a strong argument after tonight that, and this is huge recency bias, that bantamweight is the best division in the UFC. I'm gonna throw it out there. You've got your veterans, Dominic Cruz, Uriah Faber, Jose Aldo. You've got all these hot contenders with like Petr Yan, Aljamain Sterling, Corey Sandhagen. I'm leaving people out. I'm forgetting people. Marlon Moraes. So again, even the guys who lost tonight, there's no shame in it. They put in good efforts. So Brian Kelleher who lost his Stamen. So I'll say it. I mean, I think it's right up there with, we always say, lightweight, welterweight. Bantamweight is right up there with them. It's such a strong division. And if this was billed as a showcase for this division, and it connected in every possible way. Every bantamweight fight was eventful and memorable. And yes, I'm counting the Stamen-Kelleher fight. So could not have gone off better for the 135-pound division. And I hope by this time next year, we're not talking about unjust title fights, and we're talking about, how all these great main events that we saw featuring these names.
So let's kind of go down in order here. Let's start with Cody Garbrandt in the co-main event, because Rafael Assunção, as Cody Garbrandt stated multiple times, not the easiest person to look good against, but damn, Cody looked pretty darn good tonight. And we were wondering, what was he going to look like after these three finished losses that he suffered, 2 to Dillashaw and then 1 to Pedro Munoz, and then all the time off and the injuries and the stem cells and being hospitalized and all this stuff. And man, he answered a lot of questions tonight. Your thoughts, Alex, on Cody 2.0, as he called himself at the post-fight press conference tonight?
I mean, he was so in control. He was so, so patient, at least in the first round, using leg kicks beautifully, showing a lot of that kind of movement and creativity that we saw, in the Dominic Cruz win. It was probably one of the all-time great 5-round challenger wins in a UFC title fight. So he showed a lot of that. He got a little bit more wild. Some might say confident. I would say a little bit wild in the second round. But hey, obviously there was a reason for it. He sensed that there was a KO as possible, and he really loaded up. They caught a bunch of great angles on the broadcast of that knockout punch, that buzzer-beating knockout punch. And it was like a guy swinging a baseball bat. He just loaded up and connected perfectly. I do think that it's the same, though, that the way he got that knockout was kind of the same way that he got himself in trouble in the past. So to be a bit of a Debbie Downer, I will say, I don't know how this would work against guys who are a little more heavy-handed than Assunção, but tonight it was fantastic and produced one of the best knockouts we've seen all year. It was just awesome.
You and I work on these on to the next one pieces, so we're not going to give away the whole dinner tonight. We're going to give away like an appetizer right now. So let's start with Cody Garbrandt, because like we talked about, bantamweight, stacked right now. There's not a lot of bad matchups out there for Garbrandt against anybody ranked above him in that top 6, 7, 8. I think he was 9 heading into this fight. So with everything going on, especially up at the top with the title and weird matchmaking and all of that, what's next for Cody Garbrandt, in your opinion?
I am so tempted to throw him in there with O'Malley already. I loved the little interaction we had on Twitter after he got that knockout, and O'Malley goes on, he tweets out, decent, kind of I'm not impressed by your performance, 2020 version. I thought that was great. Though I just said, we were just saying before about rushing people into things. I do think it's just a little bit of a bridge too far for O'Malley. He looks incredible. I mean, if they made that fight, I wouldn't complain. But I'd like to see, O'Malley take one more fighter against a top, someone in the 8 to 15 range, not a guy like Garbrandt, who I kind of still consider to be in the top 5 and certainly might be back in there after this fight. But for Cody, gosh, do you give him? I was thinking Stamen, but maybe Stamen's good for O'Malley. So he's fought almost everyone in the top 10 already. I just hope he doesn't get the title fight. I'll say that with respect to Cody. I hope he doesn't swoop in and fight Jan instead of Aldo. And 2, I hope he doesn't jump in front of Aljamain Sterling if Sterling is next to fight that winner. So, yeah, sorry, there's sort of a cop-out answer there. But for a guy who's fought everyone in the division, the top 10 already, it's a bit hard to match him up.
Stacy Robinson says Cody Garbrandt versus Marlon Moraes. And I'm going to stop you right there, Stacy, because the fight that we need to see is Marlon Moraes versus Dominic Cruz. But how about Cody Garbrandt versus Corey Sandhagen? How about we do that after tonight?
The old winner versus loser. Loser with in the most respectful way of putting it, because I mean Sandhagen, he just got caught by a super motivated Aljamain Sterling. So yeah, certainly a doable fight. And Garbrandt, even though he is back in the winner's circle, does have some reputation rebuilding to do. This is coming off of 3 straight knockout losses, and his first fight in 15 months. So yeah, I wouldn't object to that matchmaking at all.
And I mean, I know we don't like to matchmake for guys who got knocked out pretty brutally, Rafael Sunsao, but I think Cody Stamen versus Rafael Sunsao makes all the sense in the world after tonight. So that's just some nibbles, a little bit of nibbles.
Give him a little taste.
To the matchmaking. Just
give him a little
taste. One of those little spoons you get at the ice cream store. Aljamain Sterling. I mean, good Lord. What else can be said? You mentioned already, motivated performance. He goes out there, and I said this to Jose on the last show that we did. If you could have laid out 1,000 different ways that fight could have gone, and Aljamain Sterling going out there and submitting him that quickly and that explosively in the first round, probably wouldn't have been in my top 1,000 picks. So Aljamain Sterling, what a performance. Your thoughts on how he went into the fight. And even if you want to talk about Ray Janelle's, you can see it right there. Ray Janelle's quarantine hair, which was unbelievable tonight. Maybe even took away from the performance a little bit. What did you think of the Funk Master tonight?
I mean, look, I picked the fight to go to a decision. I also picked Sandhagen, by the way, so I was wrong on that one. But either way, whether it was Sterling or Sandhagen, I thought this was going the distance. 2 evenly matched guys. And we've seen that Sterling knows how to win decisions. Most of his UFC victories have been by way of decision. So we've shown that he has that kind of both patience and also skill to do that. Winning a decision is hard. I had never seen him impose his will on someone like this. He just got in there right away and took that back and just dragged him down and was not. And he failed in the initial choke attempt, went right back at it, was not giving up. This was just a next level performance for Sterling. And if he doesn't get a title shot at some point, whether it's replacing Aldo or facing the winner of the reported Aldo Jan fight, it's a travesty. It's promotional malpractice, as they say. It's injustice, and Sterling he's deserved more respect from the UFC for a long time. So they definitely cannot do anything but give him a title shot by the end of the year.
Because of the way we thought this fight would play out, we didn't think about just having Aljamain jump the queue and just replace Jose Aldo. But the way he performed tonight, I don't think there's any other option right now. You put Aldo on the sidelines, match him up against somebody else. Really, Sterling should be getting that shot. I mean, he went in there, didn't take any damage, submitted Corey Sandhagen quickly. Send him right to the island. Let's do this thing. Stop messing around. Stop playing with our emotions. Book the correct fight.
I saw someone mention Aldo Garbrandt. I don't know what you think about that.
Ooh, that'd be fun. I'm in for that too. Ollie, Dana needs to do the right thing and make Jan versus Aljo as soon as possible. Sterling took no damage in this fight. Very well said, Ollie. Very
Agreed.
well said.
Agreed.
That's the fight to make.
They're not going to, but I agree.
No. And Sandhagen, I mean, he's very young. This loss stings today, but it doesn't hurt as much as like Aljamain losing tonight. Like if it was reversed, it's going to be devastating for Aljamain Sterling. It's going to be very hard for him to come back after all the experience he's had in the octagon, the fights he's had, and the wins and the losses and the ups and the downs. Sandhagen, he'll be back. He's still very young in his career. He's got a lot of room to grow. We haven't even seen the best of Corey Sandhagen yet. So tough loss for him. Could have been worse, but at the end of the day, he'll learn and he'll grow. And I think we saw that from a lot of different guys tonight.
Yeah.
Let's talk about.
Sorry, just Mike. I hate to use this word when talking about combat sports, but tonight's result was fair, because you would say Sterling has paid his dues. Sandhagen still has dues to pay, it seems, and this is one of them. You take a loss, his first loss in the UFC, like you said, it's not going to set him back far. But Sterling has definitely paid his dues. He's a UFC veteran at this point, and deserved. Oh, another horrible word. Deserved and fair in combat sports, but he deserved to get the win tonight, and he did. So we'll see if it gets to what's left for him that he deserves. Yeah,
Garbrandt versus Sandhagen would be a lot of fun. It'd be almost like Garbrandt versus Cruz 2 in a way, in some weird generational way. Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin. Nice win for Neil Magny. How did you score that fight, by the way, Alex?
I think I had a 29-20. I'm sorry, no, yeah, 29-28 for Magny. I was about to say Martin. 29-28 for Magny, definitely. The 30-27 was a strange call. I think we can all agree. That's the only outrage. There's some of the only real outrage I saw tonight. So yeah, there we go. There we have the decision. So, a pretty convincing win for Magny. Well deserved. He's on his. I think he tied Matt Hughes, I think, for the second most UFC welterweight win. So congratulations on that. The newly coined Haitian sensation. But solid win. Not the most memorable fight, to be fair to both. To be fair, but look, Magny, he's been around. He really did well in the third round, and I think he put a good stamp on the fight at least. So good for him.
Magny doubled down, wants to fight Michael Chiesa. I think that's an interesting fight, but we already know how Chiesa feels about this. He needs his gyms and all the stuff to open up, and I'm not sure what Washington State looks like right now in terms of restrictions and guidelines with COVID-19, but I'd be down for Magny versus Chiesa. That makes a lot of sense. But Sean O'Malley, what a performance. That knockout was sensational. Like the setup, the strike, the way the fight ended, he just walked off. Amazing. But I don't know if I'll ever forget the image of Eddie Wineland's mustache like fluttering through the air once he hit the mat. I mean, that was an incredible vision, an incredible knockout, huge win for Sean O'Malley. He wanted to step up in competition. He got a guy that was willing to give it to him, and he delivered in a big way. Sugar Show was on fire tonight at UFC 250, Alex Cayley.
Yeah, look, this was supposed to be a showcase fight for him. He's said before the fight, he said after the fight, he's the best striker. He believes he's the best striker. I don't know if he said in all of MMA, but that's certainly the best striker at 135 pounds. And he took out Wineland, one punch walk off KO. It was just a perfect moment. The fluttering mustache will probably unfortunately become a meme, much like Brendan Schaub reaching for the imaginary butterflies, or however you guys want to call that GIF. But it was exactly, we talk about how Conor McGregor became a star. By capitalizing every moment he was given. It's like, oh, he has to perform in this moment. He has to hit this moment. O'Malley, his debut was great. He on the Contender Series, the Sukumtat fight, a little forgettable. But the comeback against, was it Quinones? Spectacular. The one-punch knockout of tonight, a former World Extreme Cage Fighting champion, one-time UFC titles challenger Eddie Wineland, right on the money, perfect timing, and it's a clip that they can replay forever. So this kid, I was not a believer at first, but this guy is rising so fast, absolutely a future star, and based on social media buzz, everyone was talking about him. Maybe the most talked about fighter tonight.
Well, it seems like his next matchup will be against the UFC to renegotiate his contract.
Why would you do that? People don't have disagreements with the UFC. What are you talking about? The UFC and the fighters are in perfect lockstep these days. What? That's not
perfect harmony. The fighters on the card, the fighters who weren't on the card, they're all getting along. But
perfect.
He deserves to get paid. I'm sure he will get paid. Sean O'Malley even said at the at his post-fight media scrum that, listen, I'm not asking for what John Jones and Jorge Masvidal are asking for. He goes, I'm not even asking for as much as most of the guys fighting on this card are getting paid tonight. I just want a little bit more. He's on that Contender Series deal. He now has one fight left on his current contract, so I'm sure they're going to get this thing taken care of ASAP, especially with everything else going on with Conor and Masvidal and Jones and all that stuff. You got to keep this guy going. Where do you send him from here? Because there's the argument that let's just shoot him up. Let's do what Conor did and just give him these big fights. And then the other option is let's just slowly continue to build him up and put him in these showcase spots, opening up a main card, co-main event on a fight night, maybe even headlining a fight night, something like that. So what makes sense? And I'm sure a lot of people might want to chime in on this as well who are watching. What do you do with Sean O'Malley?
I think, like we said, Stamen is certainly a possibility. Again, they're both in the winner's circle now. They're both guys who are rising bantamweight contenders. I think they're probably, after tonight, still both on the edge of the top 10. I don't know if they quite crack it, though they are very high on O'Malley. They may want to push him in the top 10 now. We'll see, but I don't know if I'd quite put him there. I think we brought up this name. We brought up this name a bunch of times since he had that close win recently. Song Yadong, I think, would be a very favorable matchup for him. It would be a stand-up fight. I do think O'Malley at this point is the better fighter, but who knows? They're both prospects. If you're willing to put two prospects up against one another, that's certainly one way to go. And that for me a win there, I think, would put O'Malley in the top 10 for me. I wouldn't rush him up, though. Again, like I said, that Garbrandt call out, somewhat tempting.
Here's my thought. And maybe I'm crazy for thinking this because it just literally popped in my head right now. Because I think he would take this fight. I think he would jump all over it. Sean O'Malley versus Uriah Faber.
I thought of that as well. Do you think Uriah would?
I think he would take that fight.
Faber has never been afraid to fight younger guys. He's never been afraid to give. I remember he fought Alcantara when he had no reason to do that. That was all to gain for Alcantara, and he beat him. Of course, he just fought Piotr Jan, another guy who, was trying to make his name off Faber, and Faber's like, I'll just do it. Ricky Simone, he fought Ricky Simone. There was nothing, there was nothing to gain from fighting Ricky Simone. He made a moment out of it by getting a knockout, of course, but. You're right. He's really not afraid of these things. And the fact that O'Malley is kind of such a rising name now, it does seem like the kind of challenge he would take, doesn't it? I like where your head's at on this one, Mike Heck. I like where your head's at.
I think that's the fight to make. I think Sterling, I think Faber takes that fight. I really do. For the exact same reason. You could headline any fight night card with that fight. Or a co-main event on a pay-per-view card. O'Malley versus Faber. I think Faber would jump all over it. O'Malley would love that opportunity. Of course, you got to renegotiate and make everybody happy, but there you go. We got a few more minutes. If you guys got questions, thoughts, all that stuff, throw them out there. The truck will get them up on the screen. But prelims, O'Malley versus Piotr Jan from Richland Ford. Wow. Skip Sterling.
Just do it. Just do it.
Faber wants that smoke. Yes, he does. I think he would take that fight.
Yeah.
Prelims. Who are your prelim superstars, Alex Gillen? We had some great performances, and I'm going to shout out one that's going to get completely under the radar that no one's going to talk about. Ian Heinisch, what a win considering the week he had and the months he had. And like I told Jared Mearshart when I interviewed him yesterday, everything that happened was probably like the 2000th most interesting day of his life compared to everything else he's gone through. So to go through and have that performance, man, that was impressive. Who stuck out to you in the prelims?
Yeah, huge win for Heinisch. Look, he's got a great story. If you guys haven't read about it, please look up any number of articles that have been written about Heinisch and his early days being put in international prison, foreign prison, and turning his life around. So, and it was a great win. He was coming off 2 losses, and a guy like Gerald Mearshart, not an easy win at all, could easily have kept that losing streak going. So that was huge. A lot of names here. I will just shout out specifically a guy we've already mentioned a couple of times, Cody Stamen, competing under a heavy cloud. For anyone who doesn't know, his 18-year-old brother, his younger brother, did pass away recently. I believe it was last week, so the week before fight week. I have an older brother. I can't even imagine doing anything of this intensity, of this that requires this level of concentration. I'm sure in some ways, a lot of athletes, when they suffer some sort of personal tragedy, it's an escape. It's a way to kind of maybe get their mind off of that personal problem for a bit. But regardless, he had a heavy heart. As soon as the fight was over, just in tears, just in tears. His brother, who was their other brother, who was also in his corner, just comes over to console him. It was a really, really powerful moment. He was in tears after. He was in tears during the interview. Totally understand. Just letting it go, just letting it go after having to stay composed for almost the entire week. And he put on a great performance against Brian Kelleher. Brian Kelleher, all class, of course. They chatted after, and Kelleher tweeted after, good for you, and condolences, of course. So Stamen, really great moment for him. But really, there's any number of guys we could talk about on this prelims. It feels like almost everyone who won in the prelims really took just another step up as far as recognition and the quality of their resume.
Alex Perez.
Yes.
My guy.
Ooh.
Got it done.
So
Under the radar
good.
fight of the night. Man, he
So
delivered
good.
in a big way. And unfortunately, not a lot of people are going to be talking about him, considering how the rest of the card played out. But tremendous performance over Jussier Formiga. I like him. I like what he said at the post-fight press conference, stepping in, being ready, being an alternate for that vacant title fight. Or we do Brandon Moreno. I'm down for that fight 1,000,000 times. That's just a sensational fight. Those are really the only two things that make sense at this point for Alex Perez after that great performance. And the other hero of the night, in my opinion, from the prelims, Devin Clark's dad, Mr. Clark.
Wow,
great
he
quartering
was
tonight.
He
Unreal.
was motivating. I
seriously would buy
faster
anything he
because of him.
puts out. Anything. I don't care how much it costs. $100, boom, take my money, Mr. Clark. You're amazing.
He needs to be mic'd up whenever it gets to we're back to normal crowds. We got to keep him mic'd up. We need that Devin Clark dad energy on every broadcast. So
we get a parent coming through every single year. Like last year was Tyron Woodley's mom after the Kamaru Usman fight. This year it's Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark is, I don't even know what his first name is, but Mr.
We will
Clark.
find out. We will know from now on. He is now part of the MMA familia. So welcome, Devin Clark's father. We didn't even mention Herbert Burns opening the show with an 80-second submission of Evan Dunham. Evan Dunham's tough, Herbert Burns, just amazing. Knocks out Nate Landwehr in his first career knockout. He knocks out Nate Landwehr. He's insanely tough. And then he submits a long-time lightweight veteran they met in a catchweight bout, but long-time lightweight veteran Evan Dunham. So Herbert Burns is for real. Man, these Burns brothers are dangerous.
Unreal. Back-to-back fights. Like, seriously, like one last fight from the last card, Burns beats Woodley. First fight of the next card, Burns beats Dunham. Unreal. What a run for the brothers. Alex Caceres gets a win tonight.
Yes.
Against Chase Hooper.
As our own Jose Youngs noted, well, I kind of told him, but I'll give him the credit for it. This was the 22nd UFC fight for Alex Caceres, and Chase Hooper's only 20 years old. So you guys do the math in your head to figure out how absurd that is. I'm one of the people who jumped on the Hooper bandwagon, even though every logical part of my brain was like, this guy has 21 UFC fights going to this, and he's facing a guy going to his second UFC fight. Is Chase Hooper that good? And the answer was not good enough to beat Alex Caceres. Caceres is such a sharp guy, and he's seen it all. And really, anyone I should have known that he would pull out the win here because he looked great. Chase Hooper back to the drawing board. Though I was joking with Damon that they're probably going to match him up with Ronnie Yahya or John Dodson next, just because he managed to go the distance. And I hope that's not the case. I hope they match him up with another Contender Series person or something. But Chase Hooper, you'll be fine. Back to the drawing board for you, man, and congrats to Bruce Leroy.
Edgy Bra, I was hoping to hear from Edgy Bra, said Herbert Burns is a legit featherweight. He sure is. And then someone commented before, I think his name was Q, that I think it was Alex Perez versus Kai Kara France on Fight Island. And while I would love to see that fight, no offense to Kai Kara France, but Alex Perez, he's like a win away from a title shot. If not there. If Benavidez or Figueiredo can't make it to that fight, I think Perez is the guy to slide right in there. So love to see the Kara France fights in the future. But
did we not also have some Ryan Hall chatter tonight? Were people saying Ryan Hall, Herbert Burns? Oh, so many good. Gosh, Ryan Hall versus anyone. It's just
look at the look in your face.
Love it. I'm blushing.
You're dreaming right now.
I think I'm blushing.
I like the Bryce Mitchell matchup though. Honestly, if we're choosing between the two,
you can't go wrong.
There you go. What an event. UFC 250 is in the books, ladies and gentlemen. Alex, always a pleasure having you join me virtually alongside for this post-fight show. It is officially, as we record right now, 3:36 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And from what I am told from the truck, we are not done with our work yet tonight, Alex Kaylee. So thank you for the time. Any parting words, any final thoughts on UFC 250 as a whole?
Yes. Just thank you, of course, to all the stream monsters who are watching now. Again, you guys are crazy to stay up to this late and listen to us. I'll say this was a really good night for Amanda Nunes. I know, again, it didn't surprise anyone how dominant she was, but her performance and her comments after and the kind of energy she brings, these are things that I really wish we would focus on more when promoting MMA stars. And I get it. Being nice and being all rainbows has never been like a proven formula for creating a mainstream combat sports star, but I feel like it would work for her, and I always wish the UFC had pushed that more. Has the ship sailed on her ever becoming this huge draw? It's very, like we've been saying, it's really very dependent on her finding a rival, probably finding an opponent that can really build up a fight and be a nemesis for her. But otherwise, I do feel like she could be bigger than people give her credit for, and then the UFC understands that she can be. So, great night for Nunes, and she should take all the time off she wants. And congratulations for her on becoming a mother.
Completely agree. And the one thing I will say is, first of all, shout out to Jose Youngs once again, boots on the ground, on location in Las Vegas. And number two, if you guys haven't seen it yet, I highly suggest that when you turn the stream off or turn this off, however you're watching or listening, go back and watch Dana White's post-fight press conference tonight. Something else.
He was fired up.
Fired up. I've never seen Dana like that.
He wasn't having it.
He's been in some crazy post-fight media scrums. This was something else. He was all over the place, especially
people were
the Connor news dropped like
him
minutes before he got up there.
Yeah, some of the media was like there were some softball questions there, like compliments, and he was still like he was too late. He was already on the defensive. So yeah, there was. I agree, worth watching.
Still dropping F-bombs, and they're like, Dana, great job being on the front lines, and he's like, effing thank you, bro. But it's bald head. That's what happens to us. But for Alex Cayley, I am Mike Heck. Thank you guys for watching and listening. UFC 250 is in the books, and we are out of here.